Okay, if you're new to the channel, then basically I'm just a guy who got the best grades of anyone in his sixth form and got a full scholarship to study maths and physics. And usually I'll make quite like informational videos, quite information heavy, dense videos about certain topics, which are all really informative and actually very helpful. But today I kind of just wanted to tell the story of how I actually got my scholarship, because maybe some of you are even interested or thinking about doing it yourself, and it's also just a really interesting story. Okay, so the first thing that you should know about me is that I am not like the typical, Asian nerd kid that's always like sat at the back of the room, that has no friends and is kind of shy and anxious and awkward. And he's the kind of guy that you would expect to get something like an academic scholarship, because he's kind of a nerd and his whole life essentially is academia. And so this was never me. And genuinely, I don't actually remember studying at all. Okay, no, that's a lie. I studied maybe like the couple weeks of GCSEs, and that was about it for GCSEs anyway. I basically just I ran on vibes, I guess that's the best way I can put it. The one problem I did have though was that, so I didn't get like amazing well, I did get very good GCSEs. I got 9s, 8s, and 7s, and I think 1 6. But yeah, I knew people that did better than me. They got like all 9s and they'd studied every day and things like that. But I could never really do that. I could never be bothered. Also, a mistake I made was that I took like 14 GCSEs or something, because people used to tell me that, oh, it's another qualification that you have, and it was a complete waste of time. And it was a lot of the classes that I sat in, I basically just had no interest in the thing I was learning about. So this was a terrible mistake. Anyway, that's beside the point. And by the way, it pisses me off when people usually say that they didn't do any studying, because I know a lot of people that used to say to me, oh, I didn't actually study. And then if you look at them, then if you like catch them in their natural habitat, you'll basically find them doing nothing but studying or working with like a personal tutor at home, basically every day, in the build-up towards GCSEs and A-levels. So be wary of that person, because that is the most annoying person. When I tell you that I didn't do any actual studying for GCSEs, I basically did nothing. Who knows, maybe that person actually thinks that they're not doing enough studying because it's been like drilled into them by like the Brown mindset, the Brown parent mindset, that if you're not doing like 8 hours a day, then you're not doing enough. They might genuinely believe that. Okay, so again, at the start of year 12, I did something incorrect, which was listening to elders like teachers and parents. And I did something, no, I'm making it sound like I did something crazy, but basically I did 4 A-levels, okay? I did A-level maths, further maths, physics, and chemistry. Now, I absolutely hated chemistry. And the only reason I did it was because I had a vague liking for it at GCSE, firstly. And secondly, because I thought it was like related to the things I would be doing in maths and physics. And also because my teachers told me that if you're doing A-level maths and further maths, even though they count as 2 subjects, they're so similar that many universities might look at it as if it's basically 1 subject. This was completely untrue, and whatever, that's a different story. But the point is, I did 4 A-levels and I absolutely hated chemistry. And the reason I hated chemistry is probably because of something else about me, and that is that I like when things seem to like build off of each other. So I've never been someone who likes to memorize things. I don't think anyone really likes to memorize things, but some people kind of, I guess, get used to it as a mode of learning, just to know information. And I've never enjoyed that, and that is essentially what chemistry was to me. So I thought maybe I could hack it, maybe I could do chemistry and just kind of go through it and just learn these things that I didn't really care about, but it was important information to know. It really wasn't. I've always liked mathematics because it's kind of like a puzzle. I guess that's kind of cliche at this point, but there's something about mathematics that there's like this internal story that spans throughout the whole of maths, and it's kind of like you just need to know the story, and the story is easy to remember because it's like one continuous thing. And then every time you come to a new kind of problem or a new kind of question or something like that, it's like you have everything that you need in your head already to actually, if you really thought about it, if you sat down and you thought about it, you could probably come to the next solution for this thing. It's like there's no external data that you need. There's no kind of experimentally derived equations and these kind of models that people have created. It's like you just know these few basic concepts and you can pretty much derive, if you're clever enough, I guess, all of mathematics by yourself. And this kind of puzzle aspect to the questions meant that I could learn it dynamically. So I was never like forced to memorize anything. Anything that I needed to remember, I remembered naturally because it was actually being used. This is a huge problem with other subjects, is that you need to remember things, but the memorization of them is abstract. If I just told you today, right now in this video, I just gave you a sequence of letters. If I said MVE, MJ, Sun. Now, for those of you who do physics, you might actually know what that is. That's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. But if I just gave you that list and I gave you no context as to why you were learning that list, it would be very difficult for you to remember it, which is why you have to develop things like mnemonics in the first place. So I never had to do this for mathematics. Okay, fast forward a year, and essentially by accident, I had designed a system that had optimized my A-levels such that I was only doing what I enjoyed. So I was only doing things that I enjoyed, but not only that, I was doing things that were very closely related. I was now doing maths, further maths, and physics. These were the only subjects I had left. Because these subjects built off of each other, every day I went into school, I was basically just continuing from the last point I left off. There was no like managing different subjects, and there was no doing anything that I didn't want to do. Every subject you take has some kind of struggle. And some subjects will have different struggles to others. And the only choice you actually have is to pick which struggles you don't mind experiencing and which struggles you'd rather do things I'm not allowed to say on YouTube than experience. So for me, memorization of random arbitrary facts was absolutely, I could not do it. I did not want to do it. But the struggle of, for example, not understanding a new problem type in maths and going through the struggle of learning that was actually an enjoyable experience for me. So I was able to do it with ease and over again. This meant that by the end of year 12 and the start of year 13, I'd actually gotten really, really good at the things I was learning. So the maths and the physics that I was doing, I'd gotten really good at these problems because it was enjoyable, it was sustainable. So at this point I was doing things like the senior UK maths challenge, and I would get things like scores like the top 5% in the country, and I would continue on to the next round, etc., etc. And I was basically getting really, really good without really trying in these subjects. I know many people in my friend group, for example, or people that I knew that used to tell me, oh yeah, at GCSEs, you might be good at this thing or you might enjoy this thing, but when you go to A levels, then it gets serious. No, that's when it gets serious. And by the way, people will do this for everything. When you're at A levels, people in university will tell you, oh, no, this was the simple stuff, but when you get to university, this is when it gets serious. Oh, and if you're doing a bachelor's degree or an undergraduate degree, then people with a master's or postgrad, they'll tell you, no, this is the basic stuff, but this is when it gets serious. So don't listen to these people because everything is relative, and realistically, the more important thing is that you can sustainably do this thing the entire time that you need to do it. So anyway, a lot of people were good at maths at GCSEs, and now they were really struggling at A-levels. And for me, it was the complete opposite. Every day, I was getting better and better at these things. And what happened was that at the start of year 13, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I could get really good grades in these subjects. I was never really like a grades guy. I was never an academic guy. No, I was always good at, I was always very good in school, but it was never like part of my identity. I never cared about how well I did in school. I just happened to do well. Okay, and it was at this point that I was thinking, you know what? My grades could be so good that why not just apply for Oxford? So I decided to apply for Oxford. And I never really actually wanted to go to Oxford. I always thought it looked kind of really old and like haunted, and it was never really my thing. I always preferred the more modern style, the more modern look to the university. I mean, I was picking universities based on how the buildings look, I guess. Yeah, Oxford and Imperial was the place I actually wanted to go. But Oxford, I was just thinking, I might as well. Like, there was nothing I was gonna lose by applying to Oxford. So I did. And now, for those of you who know about Oxford and Cambridge applications, you know that you actually have to do, you actually get an earlier deadline for them. And when UCAS, I think, closes theirs in January, but the deadline for Oxford and Cambridge is in October. So when everyone was still adjusting to year 13, even though there's no real adjustment period, I was basically sending off my Oxford application. So I was chasing down all my teachers for my predicted grades. And there was one teacher in particular, my physics teacher, who, let's not get into that, but he would not predict me any higher than a B. All right, so this was an obvious issue for me. I was not going to apply to Oxford with a B. That would have been completely pointless. That's what everyone, all the kind of sixth form directors told me. So for kind of like a week, I had to convince this guy just to on a piece of paper, switch the B to a minimum of an A. That's all he had to do. Anyway, I don't want to get too caught up in this particular part of the story. But the point is, finally, after a week, he switched the B to an A. And he told me I would have to do extra classes after that point so that he could ensure that I would actually get an A. You already know I did not go to any of those classes. This right here, this was the turning point of the whole story. This was the point where now I had this fire inside me. Like, this guy thinks I can't even get a B in physics. I need to prove him wrong. What I did was studied. No, that's not true. I didn't study. Okay, even then, I still didn't study. After this point, I was just going to classes and I was still doing reasonably well in all the in-class tests and the mock exams we did. So I still didn't study. However, I went one step further, and it was at this point that now my applications had been sent off, and while everyone else was kind of stressing about the mock exams around Christmas time, I didn't obviously care about that because I'd already sent off my application. I didn't care what grade I got for that, even though I did very well in those, by the way. But it didn't matter because I'd already sent off my application. So in this time, I was essentially researching for like 3 months every single university that I'd applied to and different scholarships that each one offered. Somebody told me that I couldn't get a B, so I thought to myself, not only can I get more than a B, but I want to get a full scholarship in that subject just to really rub it in there. Obviously, there were other factors as to why I did this, but this was a huge one in my mind, that kind of the driving force day to day that kept me going. January now, I had heard back from Oxford and Imperial, both of which you have to do entrance exams for physics to apply to, because I applied to do physics for those two. And to this day, it's a mystery to me. I actually did very well in the Oxford PAT, it's called, and I didn't even get an interview. Imperial, however, that's a story for another day, but let's just say I didn't do too well on that one. So those were two options gone already. So Oxford and Imperial were now gone. And I had 3 options left. And so for these 3 options, basically, I got to a point where now I was able to be laser focused. I was like, okay, this is the task. There are 3 scholarships I'm looking at for 3 universities, and they each need a statement. And literally, I shit you not, for the next 3 to 4 months, I did probably more writing for the statement than I did actual studying for my A-levels. So every single day I would do like an hour at least of just writing this statement and rewriting sections over and over and over again until I got something that was absolutely perfect. I'm telling you, this thing was, it was like gold. You don't understand. It took me so long to do, and clearly it worked. I had sent off 3 statements to 3 separate unis, one of which essentially said to me, we like your statement so much, and we looked through the rest of your application, of course, and we like it so much that basically if you get 3 A's, we will give you the full scholarship to study here. And now, finally, when I had an actual incentive, I guess, to study hard, and it was now kind of the exam period as well. So yeah, a great timing for them, by the way, to to send me that email right before, like a month before my exams actually started. So thanks to whoever sent that email. But for the next month, I kind of went crazy again, and I basically woke up at like 5:30, 6:30 a.m. every single day, and I did 2 to 3, at most 3 hours in the morning every day of studying of different practice papers and stuff for each of my subjects for a month straight. So actually, that's not even a lot of hours. In terms of like total volume of work that I did, I still did so much less than most people I know. But I got so good at understanding in this period and the kind of months leading up to it, how to study effectively and how to like maximize the time that you're getting in terms of the studying, that in that month, even though I really hadn't done a lot of work up to that point, and there were entire like parts of subjects that I just didn't understand at all. Decision mathematics, by the way, for the ones, for the people who do further maths and your school has made you do decision mathematics, or you chose to do decision mathematics for some reason, I literally had zero knowledge of that at all before the month before my exam started. So I literally had to teach myself all of that in the month. And safe to say, I did pretty well. I got, of course, the grades that I needed to. And yeah, now I'm here and I got my scholarship, and I guess the rest is history. After this point is also when I started this channel, because I had so much pent up knowledge at that point of, oh my God, like people really have no idea how to study. Like by real incentive structures and being forced to do something when there's a real, you know, stake, when there's real stakes at play, like there's a scholarship on the line. And so basically I had to rapidly learn how to actually study and learn effectively. And I did so, and I got so good at this, and this is why I started the channel. And now, of course, I tell you guys how to do essentially what I did, because there's also a lot of road bumps and challenges that I, of course, faced on the way to doing all of this. And now I've kind of refined everything, and I'm continually learning that and giving it as information to you guys. Whew. Okay, this was a longer video than usual. I hope you gained something from this, because it was an interesting point. This is basically the last year of my life condensed into a 20-minute video. And yeah, I mean, hopefully enjoyed it. I think if you gained anything from it, then of course, like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can go through, see the rest of my videos. I give more informative videos about like specifics of what I learned in this period. And actually let me know if you want more kind of story videos like this, because I have a lot of stories from this period that I didn't really go into here. But yeah, anyway, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you and have a nice day.